Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It is my great pleasure to be here with you, talking some sports, amongst other things. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. If you miss anything, go back, get caught up at your leisure, as we'll have all 3 hours for you posted upon the conclusion of the show to Apple Podcasts. You can also find it wherever you get podcasts. Email the program if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameronshow. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for watching. All guests appear via the Phone Hero hotline. Phone Hero specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway, 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. I don't know. This might be overkill if I get into the weeds regarding last night's non-competitive action on the hardwood. Miami, as I told you guys on as early as Monday, would not be competitive, is not competitive, is a putrid program currently in the world of basketball. Their team sucks. Players really don't provide much to the world of ACC basketball. And we're the antithesis. We're God's gift to ACC basketball. That's what we are. So that is not a compelling matchup. But given that it is a rivalry, and the ebbs and flows of rivalries we all know, because we've been on the wrong end of them too. We've been on the wrong side of a downturn, while the other side is getting their ducks in a row, getting their house in order, and they lay the wood. For example, when we won 7 consecutive games against Miami in football, I was all too happy to revel in that, and we would talk of perhaps one day in the not-too-distant future, a Platinum Bohica leading the way as we win for the 10th consecutive time against Miami. But alas, it was not to be. Jimbo and staff flew it into the side of a mountain, and the next thing you knew, we were crying out for help, and Miami was not riding the ship, but certainly doing enough to get the W, and they've now won 4 straight over us. It's hurtful. It's really hurtful. And it's because of that I'm reminded we should revel in every long winning streak. We ought to celebrate and embrace every time we go on an historically great run against our rivals in anything. And after last night, Florida State manhandles Miami in a game that, as I said, was not competitive. A game that probably early on, say at 25-8, the officials should have just called. There's no need for any more of this. I think we can tell this is men amongst boys. We only had 10 scholarship players available for this game. MJ Walker and Gom were both sidelined with knee injuries. I don't wish injury upon anybody. Certainly wasn't saddened to hear that Ngom was not going to be able to give it a go. FSU still had...
Streak is 4 days now.
Obviously a manpower advantage over the listless, impotent Miami Hurricanes. And it became apparent very early on. And so it is. Florida State has won 7 consecutive times against the University of Miami. It's a beautiful streak. It is the longest winning streak by either program in the rivalry series. Miami has never seen a streak of this magnitude in the series until now. And there are no signs that Miami is going to interrupt this prodigious domination streak of victories over them. 8 will happen next year. Perhaps 9 in the same season. We will be 1 away from the aforementioned Platinum Bohica after next year, I do believe. If we get the 2 game.
Who knows? Maybe you see him in the tournament this year and you can speed up the process.
Let's expedite the Platinum Bohica.
Oh, no. Not the NCAA tournament. I'm sorry, the ACC tournament.
Yeah, they're allowed to show up for that.
If they can make it past their Tuesday and Wednesday games.
At the end of the day. Tom, as I go through these impressive stats, for every impressive stat, what might represent, say, a victory for Florida State, you could have a sounder that is representative of the way we feel currently about the domination Florida State has over Miami. So, for example, we check these final stats, take a cursory glance. We don't spend a lot of time on it. The Noles were 37 of 69 from the field. That's nearly 54% from the field, nearly 54%. 9 of 25 from three, just 5 of 7 from the free throw line because, Miami didn't want to foul us. We did have 21 assists against just 11 turnovers, out-rebounded the Canes 45 to 36. And we held Miami to 34% shooting from the field, 8 of 23 from beyond the arc, 15 of 19 from the free throw line, most of that coming in garbage time. But I think the best part is, for example, here's one for you, Tom. Points in the paint, we can start there if you'd like, 52 to 22.
Stick 'em in your mouth and suck 'em.
Bench points, 57 to 5.
Stick 'em in your mouth and suck 'em.
At one point, the bench points read 55 to nothing.
Stick 'em in your mouth and suck 'em.
My God. Not just screwing, Mitch.
Stick 'em in your mouth and suck 'em.
That is hideous. Of course, there was the Raekwon Gray block that made SportsCenter.
Stick 'em in your mouth and suck 'em.
Oh, that's right. That gets an echo effect.
Speaking of which, Raekwon racked up his third, I should specify, Gray. Racked up his third double-double of the season, his second against Miami, by the way. They're accustomed to seeing him dominate against them. 12 points on 6 of 11 shooting, along with a career-high 13 boards, a career-high 6 assists, 2 block shots, including the highlight reel denial of a point-blank dunk attempt.
Who did not see him coming. Oh, goodness. He did not see Raekwon coming to defend the rim, and there was a kid on the bench
who stood up
he was
ready
getting
to
out
celebrate.
of his chair.
Yeah.
He was wearing the orange pullover.
He had to wear the disappointment for all to see as he sheepishly sat back down.
Guess I better take my seat again.
Reminded we don't belong on the floor with this superior group of players from Tallahassee. Anthony Polite started in place of M.J. Walker, scored 12 points on 4 of 9 shooting, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 3 boards in 24 minutes. Wyatt Wilkes, 5 points, 2 of 6, 1 of 5 from 3, 2 boards, a steal, a block shot in 22 minutes. Malik Osborne, just the 2 points, 4 boards in 9 minutes, had that ankle injury. Knock on wood, he'll be okay. Good player. Raekwon Evans, I don't know what to think about Raekwon Evans these days. It's his third scoreless effort in his last 4 games as a starter. We got to do better than that. That's beginning to get.
It's his time in Chapel Hill. Here we go.
No boards, no assists, no points. Did you? Were you there? Did you play the game? Were you in the game? Did I look at that wrong?
Oh boy, Tough Love is expanding his brand.
My man Star Calhoun, though, he showed up. You always know when he's on the floor. Scored a career-high 16 points on 7 of 9 from the floor. That'll do it. 2 of 4 from 3. 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. Have yourself a day, young man.
One of the steals was highway robbery around the timeline, and he's already in cherry-picking position to get a dunk in transition. It was a beautiful play.
Balsa looked good, 13 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. Had those 8 boards, 2 assists, a steal, 2 block shots in 23 minutes. Looked good. Had a couple quirky, dorky moments. He's good for one of those a game.
Yes.
Gets a little dorky from time to time. Late he had one, and he had one early too. You're like, oh, come on, man. I know you're 7 feet.
But cram that.
Yeah, let's go.
Come on. What are we doing?
Yeah.
No layup line for our trees, please.
Good on you, Nathaniel Jack. 9 points, 3 of 7, 3 of 6, 50% from 3. There you go. I
He'll
like
let
it.
you know when he hits one, too.
Yeah.
He'll hold it. You're like, dude, we're up 20. You're in the game because we're up 20.
Ooh, I like it. I like our running game. I was just thinking about that. That was Michigan. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That was my man. Ooh.
I was going to say, Brady Hoke, he's in basketball now.
I like our running game. With Osborne and Ingom unavailable, Quincy Ballard filled in, had a career-high 8 points. And, with Quincy, I don't mind watching him play. It's far less aggravating watching him play.
You know, it's funny. Sorry, it just occurred to me that you said Evans scored 0 points, and he had one point-blank layup on a pass by Scotty Barnes once again from the top of the key.
Our guys will miss a Scotty Barnes feed, finisher, yeah.
And he put his hands up to the sky, and apparently the broadcast said so did Scotty. Like, come on, my man.
My man, what are we doing here?
Because he was close to a key number in assists last night, Scotty.
Yeah, he was. As it looks now, there is something to celebrate about last night's lopsided win beyond extending the streak to 7 straight games over Miami, which is joyous in and of itself, admittedly, but you cannot revel too much in that because Florida State has bigger fish to fry. They've got a game coming up against North Carolina. Roll it out there, Roy struck again last night.
Shouldn't have been so nice to him.
Right when you think they're getting it together, North Carolina had to quickly schedule a replacement game because of the canceled Boston College game. They went after 10-12 Marquette. 2 games under 500, but the Golden Eagles said, nay, we are not here to be your sacrificial lamb. We'll ride the hell into Chapel Hill and walk out with a victory. That's what we'll do, and they did. They beat the Tar Heels 83-70. That is North Carolina's first loss of the year at home. I can't decide if that's a good or bad thing given this Saturday's matchup against UNC for Florida State. I would lean towards it being a bad thing, but not because I'm pessimistic, but because there will be a ratcheted up level of desperation for North Carolina. That is a pretty dubious setback for them. And they know that Florida State is a game that if you win it, you do an awful lot to bolster the resume. Listen, that's where the program's at. That's where Florida State is these days. They're a program of significance and one that has its bullseye on the back because they realize everybody's going to give them their best shot, and it is a season maker if you beat Florida State these days. And I'm not even being, an over-the-top garnet and gold colored glasses celebration sort of host today. I'm saying that's what Florida State is in the ACC. The team in first place, the team that won the regular season last year and is on pace to win it again this year. We're the team you got to beat if you're on the borderline. If you're somebody who needs a significant win, you got to find a way to beat Florida State. So few do, Tom. So few do.
You'll get their best effort, though, because they napped through that game, and they will nap no more. And you're playing in their building in late February with those whistles. Here we go.
Well, that will be frustrating if it plays out the way you're inferring it will. NC State, by the way, goes into the JPJ. Perhaps Florida State broke Virginia because it's been on display now for a few in a row. And that is the Wolfpack's 4th straight ACC road win. They haven't done that since 1974. That is the Cavs' first home loss in 15 games. Virginia has now lost 3 straight games overall. FSU is one step closer to a second straight top finish in the ACC regular season. That is reason to celebrate. That is something that we'll spend some time on because I don't think you can take for granted this time in Florida State basketball lore and history. Somebody who desperately wanted to see this play out in a way that we could be proud of, that we could watch Florida State and have a community behind them as opposed to a few stragglers, diehards who just dreamt of something that many would deem to be an impossible task. Now we've sustained it over the course of several seasons with an incoming class ranked in the top 5 and players littered throughout the NBA. And now it is the standard, oddly. It may not be fair to expect that for the next 3 or 4 seasons, but we've arrived at this place. It's something to really, really take the time to appreciate and take a step back from and think about where we were, how close Leonard Hamilton was to perhaps losing his job, making some adjustments, changing philosophy, and then attacking those goals by going out and recruiting the kinds of kids that could help elevate the program and do so in a hurry. And he did it just in the nick of time, and now here we are.
It's a combination of hitting on kids who would fit the new philosophy and then hitting on some transfers and lesser-thans and developing the hell out of them.
Yeah,
and hitting home runs.
is a pretty good example of that, yeah.
There aren't many guys that we got in the last 5 years that are JUCO transfers or grad transfers where you're like, well, he didn't serve any purpose at all. It was a complete whiff. Like there maybe 2, 3
there's a few.
at most.
Yeah, there's a few, but that much.
But some of the projects that they got combined with the blue chippers that they brought in and some of the players they thought he's going to develop into something, it's mostly home runs. They're batting like 800 in that situation.
Well,
that's what got us here this fast.
And I give them, they've earned the benefit of the doubt now that even when I take my pot shots at a guy like Ngome, as you noted for the last 4 days, I don't doubt that kid maybe will turn into something if he comes back another year. I know you would say, well, that he can't, but he can. Probably needs
anybody
to.
can this year, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So maybe it happens. Maybe we get something out of him. I mean,
maybe MJ Walker will come back
for year 17.
Yeah.
Clemson won their fourth straight game. They beat Wake Forest 60-39, and I cracked up because Wake hit a 3 on their first possession of the game to start the contest, and I already knew the result of the game. I was watching the highlight, and I saw the 3, and I went, well, 36 more points coming for Wake the rest of the way. That ain't good, man. That is not good, but Clemson's playing well.
Yeah, they're trending up, unlike Virginia.
Florida State's win percentage in a year where win percentage means an awful lot. It always does, but it especially does when you're trying to discern between 2 teams, 3 teams, 4 teams that haven't played the same number of games. So the Noles are 10-2 in conference. That's an .833 win percentage. That's the best in all of the ACC. Virginia is 11-4, moving in the wrong direction. 15-6 overall, by the way, but 11-4 in conference. Well, that's good for a .733 win percentage. Significantly behind the .833 win percentage of Florida State. Virginia Tech, 8-4, .667 win percentage for them. Then there's Louisville at .636 and Clemson at .615. So bottom line is, I think it's safe to say that if Florida State goes on the road and beats North Carolina on Saturday, they're going to wrap up the ACC regular season title for the second consecutive year.
And they have plenty of outs to do it otherwise if they don't take care of business.
Yeah, but this is the one I care about most. I really do. I win this game. This is it's a big boy basketball game. I know North Carolina lost last night to Marquette, and I know I take my shots at Roy, but I think he'll have them ready to play. I think they'll be fired up, and I think early on, you're going to have to withstand some of the emotion that Carolina brings to the table here. We think, unless they roll it out there again.
Well, I think so too. No, they'll be ready for that game. That's a prime opportunity for them to fortify whatever seed line they're going to be on. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a top 3 or 4 seed, I can guarantee you that. But it's a seed. They're not like Duke right now. They're on the outside looking in. But the question is, what Noles will be on the court for us? MJ Leonard has always been non-committal, and I imagine maybe we'll get good news tomorrow, and he'll speak definitively. But I imagine that we're not going to have a surefire answer on MJ's status tomorrow or Malik Osborne's status. And listen, those 2 guys played really, really big roles in our first win over North Carolina. So that the circumstances might put you in a position where the whistle goes against you. You don't have 2 of your regulars in your rotation. Somebody struggles, and the next thing you know, North Carolina plays really well.
Yeah, no,
that can happen.
It was easy to be bold when predicting that Florida State would boat race Miami last night. I don't have the same sort of bravado when I predict this game against North Carolina. I'm not saying we're going to lose the game, but I am saying that this is a game. You're going to have to show up and play really well in order to win it. Switch gears and talk some college football. We're not that far away from the start of spring football. Also, we can look nationally. I was noting that my man David Hale weighed in as an ESPN staff member. Biggest question marks for the way too early top 25. There's a funny one in here that I want to go over and we can talk about. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Biggest offseason question, ESPN.com, college football. A mixture of Bill Connolly, David Hale, Van Haren, Andrea Adelson, Chris Lowe. I had Chris Lowe on about 4 years ago, I think it was.
He was like the intrepid Steve Spurrier reporter for ESPN for years.
That's true. I just laughed at a couple of these. So they basically have it as they have top 25, and then they just ask question marks about those way too early top 25 predictions and what will have to happen for them to either be better, move up the ranks, or fall down, whatever it might be. I wanted to see what they did with LSU because I think we all immediately suspected, and I know COVID puts a wrinkle in things. I mean, it was a weird year. It was hard to kind of tell what was what. But the feeling around LSU to me was this would have happened regardless. The season that they had, for example, which makes it all the more stunning that Florida lost that home game to LSU when everything was on the line.
Boy, oh boy. Now they know what a Jimbo special is like down
Just
there.
a devastating loss. Really seemingly impossible. But the question for Ed Orgeron was, did he get the coaching staff right this time? Now, implied in that is that Ed can't lead you out of the darkness.
Ed's got to find some people.
Ed has to find real coaches for them to have a chance to win. Because if it's left to Ed, you're all in real trouble. Which is what we suspected before lightning in the bottle, right? Joe Brady comes in and is a miracle worker, and they win, and it's one of the most prolific, incredible seasons we've ever seen, perhaps the greatest season we've ever seen in college football history. But I love those coaches that people immediately, if you're having a real conversation with somebody, you're like, I think we know that wasn't an Ed Orgeron championship. It's sort of the well, it's not unlike Cam Newton's championship at Auburn.
That's correct, yeah. That Uber driver was right for the wrong reasons. He was talking about a greater process.
Yeah.
But he got Chizik and Cam Newton. That's what he got. Chizik was in the form.
5-19 is not what we need.
Chizik in the form of the offensive coordinator. You know?
Yeah, it was good. Will Ed Orgeron surround himself with a winning coaching staff? Granted, the dismantling of the 2019 Tigers staff was a result of winning a national championship, whereas the 2020 Tigers barely managed to finish 500. But the result was the same as a slew of coordinators and assistants left or shown the door. Orgeron is clearly trying to recreate the magic of 2019 by hiring Joe Brady disciples, Jake Peets and DJ Mingus, to lead the offense, while former Dave Adranda assistant Durante Jones was tabbed to serve as offensive coordinator. Anyhow, they go into this on paper stuff and what's going to happen. Okay. That's just funny. Did Ed get the coaching staff right? Because Ed ain't going to help you.
It could happen. It might. But it ain't going to be Ed leading that way. He's not running out of the tunnel prepared. Somebody else has to be prepared.
Somebody else has to be prepared. And again, I learned my lesson long ago. Really, I kind of think I did with Les Miles. I mean, once you figured out that not everybody has the X's and O's acumen that you would prefer or wish for on your sideline, some guys really are just guys that help get kids to say yes, and they don't do much else. Perhaps shake hands and yuck it up with others. Some of the others of note here in this top 25, obviously with Florida, how does Dan Mullen replace lots of offensive firepower? What does Notre Dame's offense look like with a bunch of new players there? That's important to us. Let's hope it looks like ass early in the season at least. I hope that we revisit this question about third quarter of the Florida State-Notre Dame game because we're reminded of the question as we listen to a Notre Dame fan go, this offense looks like ass. Then we're like, hey, that was the preseason question, Tom.
Reminds me of home. South Bend.
Also, I would point out here, this is good. They have Indiana as a top 10 team, which is interesting. Okay. For North Carolina, How do they handle the preseason hype? The Heels need to establish a new pecking order at receiver and tailback. The defense had too many bad games in 2020, but the truth is the biggest obstacle for North Carolina might not be its shortcomings, but rather its success. Few teams will enter 2021, writes David Hale, with more hype than the Heels, who will be a trendy pick to finally end Clemson's dominance in the ACC. Given some of the UNC's implosions against lesser competition in 2020, hint, hint, Florida State, it's fair to wonder how an up-and-coming team will handle so much hype. The Heels have the talent to be special, but learning how to handle the burdens of success is often the last big stumbling block to reach the mountaintop. I don't know. I mean, I think that's just sort of a I got to write about this.
Yeah, I'm skeptical that North Carolina is going to be one of the most trendy picks in the country. I mean, what are we doing?
To the extent that that the people think they can beat Clemson, I'm with you. I do think they'll be trendy, though, because of the way the season ended for them and because they have recruited well. That is perhaps the most shocking thing that we've witnessed with North Carolina. It's not so much that the program became, like, you raised the floor. You know, we kind of thought, we all had a little bit of a chuckle when Mac Brown was hired because of his age, and he had been away from football, and you kind of figured, oh, I don't know that Mac's going to come in and dramatically change the fortunes of North Carolina football. But to his credit, he did. He did. And we were proven wrong, period. There's no way around that. I was proven wrong. I really, really was skeptical and kind of laughed at the hire. Now, the thing with Mac, and I've brought this up over the years, is that, yeah, I mean, he's going to field a competitive team. He's going to put together a good staff. They're going to recruit pretty well. But can you get over the ultimate hill, right? Can you get to the top of the mountain? Can you get to where you can win in this case, for North Carolina, frankly, winning the ACC is about the best you could ever hope for. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they walk around thinking they're going to win a national championship at any point.
No, that's where I'm like, where are we going with the trendy thing? Because they were 8-4 last year.
Yeah,
remember, everybody loved them the year before, and
they were 7-6.
They lost 6 times.
Yeah.
And they lost to us, which is an indictment. That is an absolute indictment on their program. They lost to us.
It's a scathing indictment when you consider all of the teams that didn't lose to us and the way that we looked in many of those games. Yes.
They lost to Virginia, gave up 44 points. Notre Dame beat them by 14, and then A&M beat them by 14 in the bowl game.
Yeah, and in the year before they lost to App State. So, yeah, no, I understand. But listen, they're a program on the come, though. I don't think we would argue that.
No, I would not argue that.
Right.
Yeah, you set the over-under at 9 wins, though. I'm not setting it at 11.
All right, let's do it. W's and L's for North Carolina. Here we go. Listen, you lose 2 of the best running backs in all of college football. Those 2 dudes, I had football envy. Watching those 2 guys, I'm like, man, we don't have anything that looks like that. Those 2 dudes those are grown-ass men running the football for North Carolina, which makes it all the more puzzling they lost that game to us, given our run defense.
Yeah, because they wanted to throw.
It was nuts.
What a game plan.
Give me W's and L's. Here we go. W's. Wins.
All right. How you doing?
Losses.
Damn it! We lost! We f***ing super lost, man!
Where do we triumph? Where doth thou fall? Georgia State is the opener on September the 11th, and I think they'll win that game.
They have one before that. They just don't know the date yet. They travel to Lane Stadium to play Virginia Tech. It's either going to be on Friday the 3rd of September or Thursday the 2nd. So I guess ESPN's going to flex them in on Labor Day weekend where they want.
So why did they do this? Hold on a second. That is awfully bizarre. I see what you're saying now. I looked at the ESPN schedule, and they just don't have that game listed at all. Like it's not even on the schedule.
Typical ESPN ACC follow-up, sir.
Damn it, man.
That network is a really high priority, though. It is, I promise.
But, like, they don't even have it as a floater. I don't even see, like, that game is going to be played. All right. So that game will be played. You want to put it before September the 11th?
Yes, it'll be their first game. So it'll be on the road, too, and maybe Lane Stadium will be rocking. Maybe it'll be 100% capacity. Who knows?
I'm going to take North Carolina. Then they play Georgia State. I'm going to take North Carolina. Then they host Virginia. I'm going to take North Carolina. They're on the road at Georgia Tech. I'm going to take North Carolina. They host Duke. I'm going to take North Carolina. Then they host us. Ugh. Angry.
Well, okay, that's where you put the 2 schedules together. We can start with 3 or 4 wins before that game is played, which means it would be a night kick. Right.
Saturday, October the 9th. Cool weather.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to pick us. I can't. I'm going to pick North Carolina.
So they're
what
undefeated.
a start.
Oh,
what a
my.
start. Then they're hosting Miami. Going to take North Carolina. They host, then they go on the road to Notre Dame, who will have had time to work out their offensive woes after a devastating Week 1 upset at the hands of Florida State.
Coming off a bye for that game is North Carolina.
Going to take North Carolina. Then it's Wake. Going to take North Carolina. Then it's at Pitt. Going to take North Carolina. This is an undefeated North Carolina Tar Heel team. Wofford and NC State close it out. What a year. What a year. Mac Brown.
You just went 12-0 for Mac Brown?
Here we go.
Oh, my God.
Of course they won't go 12-0, but it is hard in a vacuum to find a loss on the schedule. Like, what game jumps out at you? Maybe Virginia Tech? Maybe the road game against Notre Dame?
Would Florida State have last year?
Correct. You're right. I mean, they lost 4 times. You're right. But if we're assuming that they're upwardly mobile and they're getting better and better, and your quarterback is now a very seasoned veteran.
Let's see. Virginia Tech is a program that's imploded, right? Is it still the Fuente mess? Is that what's going on?
He's still there, yes.
Okay. So I think
it's hard to find
the
a loss
back-to-back
there.
weeks between Virginia and Georgia Tech, they could lose either of those 2 games. Maybe both. Who knows?
Oh, stop it. They're not going to lose to Georgia Tech. Sorry.
They shouldn't have lost to us. They shouldn't have lost to Appy. They shouldn't have lost to Wake 2 years ago.
I'm projecting now that they're getting better each of the years, that they're improving along the way. Their defense should be better this year than it was last.
I agree with you that they're trending in the correct direction,
Yes.
but Mac Brown has historically always been good.
Nobody knows that better than me.
That's
I love pointing out Mac Brown's foibles.
Landmines, the Mac Brown unmarked landmine game of the
They're
year.
everywhere all the time, and they're funny.
There might be 2 of them. So I'm going to pick Georgia Tech on the road. That's one of the landmines.
Well, that's a hell of a landmine. I will say this. You're not wrong about Mac Brown stumbling over a game that they have no business losing. And Carolina doesn't strike me as being so well-rounded and deep that they could avoid the upset. Yeah, they're going to lose a game somewhere in here. I'm not going to project them to go undefeated. That's half tongue-in-cheek. But I do think it is reflective of a schedule that is set up pretty nicely, that you can look at it on its face and go, damn, man. I mean, that's 11. That's a 10-11 win team right there, right?
It also shows you how weak this conference is that they avoid Clemson, and you're like, well, on paper they're better than them. They're better on paper than any of these teams in the conference because Notre Dame is no longer a part of the conference, might add.
Yeah. I come on, Florida State. Just give me a reason. God almighty. I hate looking at all these.
We could go up there and win that game.
All
right. I'm not going to say most likely win that game, but we can go up there and do it.
I'm definitely not going to say that. This, you know what it does? It makes you immediately return to our schedule. It makes you immediately say, okay, Notre Dame, Jacksonville State, Wake, Louisville, Syracuse, at UNC. Wins.
All right. How you doing?
Losses.
Damn it! We lost! We f***ing super lost, man!
Where do we triumph? Where doth thou fall? All right, so I'm not going to do that today, but I will do this for you.
Man, next week's March.
Let's do it in March then.
Okay.
Yeah, but I will do this for you. This was all part of the ESPN.com college football insider page. And I gave you that aforementioned article on which transfer portal players will make the biggest impact across college football. And Mackenzie Milton was number 1 at the most important position in college football, or football for that matter. The opening line is just a wonderful understatement. The Seminoles need help at quarterback. And Milton has been cleared to play after his horrific injury at UCF in 2017. Milton threw for 4,037 yards, 37 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, leading UCF to an undefeated season. If he's able to play anywhere close to 100%, that will be a big help on offense. Yes, understatement. A big help indeed. Yes. Having a quarterback is helpful to winning football games. Not a guy playing quarterback because you have no other choice, but a guy who is a bona fide quarterback. Helpful, isn't it, Coach? Changes your game plan. Got time to sit around and think about what you might be able to do in terms of a diversity of game plan as opposed to last year's we're a one-trick pony, baby. Yeah, we got to do this thing. That's what we got to do. This only thing here. Let's hope like hell.
Jordan Travis may cross somebody over.
Yeah.
And then,
Hey, Jordan, dribble the ball off the ground, pick it up, shake a guy in a phone booth, and score. Try not to hurt yourself while doing that, and then we're going to need you to do it again the next time we have the ball. God forbid we have to pass on an obvious passing down. That ain't going to work out. Won't it be nice, all jokes aside,
3rd and 7.
you're like, okay, Mackenzie Milton's in. It's 3rd and 6.5. We can do this. We can do this. Here we go. I mean, last year.
Oh, they don't want us in 3rd and long.
Dude, last year, 3rd and 6, I'm like, well, run a draw and punt it.
Oh, no, you need to scramble. You're like,
roll him out, hope he makes
we
a
need
good.
them to lose gap integrity so he can round the corner.
It was bizarre.
To get 8 and hopefully not get injured as he gets popped out of bounds.
Yeah, man, it was that was a toughie. It did also allow for me to kind of take a look at other transfers. I guess we forget once football ends. But Tom, I wanted you to know that N'Kosi Perry has transferred from Miami. Were you aware of that?
Where has he gone? Has somebody said yes to him yet?
Portal.
That's actually legitimately a problem this year. Kids are thinking there's always a greener pasture, and there is no pasture whatsoever, young man.
Looking at N'Kosi Perry's career numbers, 50% completion percentage, followed by 53%. Tough times. Yeah, it didn't work out. That was a wise move to go get the Eric King.
Gets to come back because of COVID.
Unfortunately. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9, ESPN Radio. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Sorry. I'm looking at... it's fascinating that we had to do this last night, Tom, real quick, an aside, short segment here, so I'll revisit the Tiger Woods situation, which is unfortunate, but we had a lot of people weighing in, a lot of audio from last night's golf show, and there were doctors that came on and talked about the nature of that injury, so I'll share some of that here because this is amazing. Like yesterday, you and I were talking about, it seems like it would be unwise to bet against Tiger Woods coming back, right? I mean, the guy has done it time and again, and we never really thought that at various stretches during his time where he was beset by injury or controversy that he could get all the way back to winning majors again or even being ranked in the top 100 or winning tournaments, and he's done both or he's done all three of those things time and again. And that's with back injuries, which are particularly bad for golf. So you figure, well, an ankle or a knee or even a tibia, you're like, oh, well, okay, well, we'll fix this. I found this out last night. You know Taylor Zarzer. His brother is an orthopedic surgeon in Alabama.
Huh.
And he came on and talked about at length what the surgery was, where they put the steel rod in the leg. Do you know that when they do that, when there's that much trauma to an area like there was on Tiger's right leg, well, first of all, two things that I find amazing. And the body is amazing in a lot of ways, but also the process by which it safeguards you from going into shock and dying. The cop that was first to arrive on the scene, we had audio from him last night, he said that when he got to Tiger Woods, that this is how confused and disoriented people can be in the moment. He was not, like, because the first thing that comes that any of these people are asked about is, was he impaired? The answer was a resounding no. No alcohol in the breath, nothing like that. He hadn't been drinking. There was no, they ran blood tests. There was nothing in his system, nothing in the way of,
Controlled substances.
Yeah. But also just the interaction. He said he exhibited signs that he did not understand because his car rolled, like, they think upwards of 5 times. That's a hell of an accident. He did not understand the extent to which his leg had been damaged, and the officer could look in and see it. And it's a compound fracture. So once you hear that the bone is sticking out of the leg, it's a toughie. Now imagine having to witness that, and then clearly the subject does not know because they're disoriented.
Keep your eyes on me.
Yeah, don't look around, man. You look right at me. We're going to talk through this. An ambulance is on the way. You all right? Anything you want to say to me? Like, you got internal injuries you're trying to decipher. Is there anything else desperately wrong with this individual besides the fact that I'm looking at your bone sticking out of your leg? Yee, that's not good. So that came out last night. And then secondarily, he's answering questions like it's just a lovely Thursday afternoon. Just sort of I know I've been in an accident, but good thing I had my seatbelt on. Seemed to be okay. Like he wanted to get out and walk around. You can't do that. You've got a bone shooting out of your leg. But the surgery part of it, they have to lay the leg open because it's so swollen. So once they cut it open and they insert, in order to stabilize the area, the rod in his leg to connect the bone, they cannot sew it back up. It's too swollen. So he's going to have multiple surgeries from this point forward. They'll probably even have to do a skin graft. The damage is so bad. And they have to wait for all of that swelling to go down before they can overlap more skin because he doesn't have enough. They can't stretch it. It's that damaged. In order to, they'll wait a day or two and they'll go back into surgery and then they'll close the open wound with the rod. They went on to say, did the doctor, there is no chance he plays golf in 2021. 0. So any thought where you hear people talking about on the heels of this, oh, well, maybe by the end of the year we'll see him swing a club. No. He did say that the normal individual would probably be forever altered. Their gait would be forever altered. The way that they could participate in exercise, let alone compete in anything, would be this would be devastating to the point that they could never get back to any reasonable level to being 100% of where they were. But that when you're, and this isn't implied, when you're a billionaire and you can spend all day, every day with the world's foremost experts on rehab for this particular injury, which if you choose to do so, you could.
Yeah, it's coming out of pocket. Yeah.
Then you could yes, get something close to, that approximately 100% of what you were. It would take a full year of rehabbing a lot, but that he's shown the proclivity to do so.
Yeah,
he likes to come back.
He likes to suffer too a little bit. He's got that in him. That was part of the reason, the book that Hank Haney wrote.
Yeah.
My number one worry now is he's going to be on a lot of painkillers for a long time.
Right, in
somebody's got to be there with him every step of the way.
I just couldn't believe they have to leave that open for more than, and there's a real risk of infection. That's what doctors fear the most, is when you do that, you obviously you clean it out, but you have to hope like hell that you don't get an infection. Ooh, I know, that's just brutal. Just a little insight there from doctors. I don't know this stuff, but they came on and talked about it. I thought it was fascinating. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with.
Gravity.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Appreciate you tuning in. If you want to watch it, you can on YouTube. Want to listen on the radio? God love you. And if you want to email, feel free. JCS at 979ESPNradio.com. On Twitter, it's at JCameronShow. Reading questions during the break on Twitter, hashtag a-hole. Lost in the suck that has been our quarterback play for some years now, can we just take a second to feel the joy, relief, and pleasure to know that we will see more than one consecutive forward pass this upcoming football season? Hashtag a-hole.
Hashtag a-hole.
Yeah. No, I think the passing game is going to be improved. I obviously question the receiving core, but these things go hand in hand. If you've got a quarterback that gets the ball out on time, in rhythm, within the design of the play, receiver play improves.
Oh, this guy and Tamorian could have made beautiful music together.
That is correct. Yeah. But
whatever.
alas. Got a question from James here at my Knowles. 1, what is Calhoun's vertical? It's high.
Yeah, it's a lot.
He can jump. I think you could argue he's probably the best athlete on the team. Yeah, he's and you know it's funny. We talk about when we describe defensive ends in football and the difference between an edge setter and somebody who can really get off the ball and rush the passer. And you can get into ankle flexion and the ability to what degree you can obviously bend, leverage, and all of that. And that's fun. That's in the weeds talk about great edge rushers and guys who are just more about setting the edge and then you have hybrid guys and all of that. But with athleticism in basketball, I mean, there are so many great athletes. And one of the joys of watching basketball is that it's probably the most athletic-looking sport. When you see it in person, you're just blown away that guys could be that big, that strong, and jump that high and make it look so easy, right? We see it all the time. It's just they're gliding through the air. But it doesn't always mean you're a real good basketball player. And when we see edge rushers, when we know they can get to the passer, it's because we describe them as twitchy, very twitchy, very, very firing off the ball, really quick. The second you saw Calhoun, even when he was spastic,
yeah,
and he's getting less and less so each time you see him because he's playing and getting more comfortable, and the game slows down for him a little bit, and he understands his role a little bit more. And when you begin to feel more comfortable, you don't feel like everything is so rushed. You're worried that you're behind. You're worried that you're missing a step or you're not in your spot. When you're comfortable with what you do and you understand your body, you begin to understand how long it takes you to get to a certain spot defensively or how you need to position your body. Then you take control, and in Calhoun's case, of your athleticism and apply it and utilize it in various forms, right? Certain percentages are necessary at times. Now, he's not thinking that way. It happens naturally as things slow down for you. You recognize that you don't have to go everywhere at 100 miles per hour. 70% will do here. But, man, I watch different aspects of what that kid does with the ball, without the ball, when he's on offense, when he gets back on defense, which was really a problem for him defensively for a time there. That's why Ham was not getting him as many minutes. His upside offensively was apparent even when he was missing shots because that stroke is gorgeous. It's just a beautiful shot. You knew it was in there, and you had heard that, right? And he wasn't lacking confidence. I don't know what his vertical is, to answer your question, James. It's really good. It's obviously he's one of the more twitchy guys on the team, to say the least, getting back to my point. But last night, Tom, in a laugher, would you not say that there were about 2 or 3 moments where you thought of Calhoun's future? Like it was on display what he could be when this all makes sense to him. And there's a baseline move off the bounce where he gets to the rim with his left hand. It is as NBA looking a move as you saw last night from anybody on the floor for either team. It's just a quick jab step, bounce, hop in the lane, gets the edge, goes up, and his face is at the rim, and it's now.
Yeah, I think the word I'd use is springy.
Yeah,
to his athleticism.
Springy instead of twitchy, yeah.
He's agilely springy. I mean, he reminds me, and I know it's different positions, different body types, so I'm not trying to compare apples to apples, but like Al Thornton could explode
Oh, well.
at the basket, out of nowhere, And, like, you'd be just lulled into sleep by the way we played and maybe the course of a game with a bunch of bricks, which
and then
college
somebody
basketball
would get thundered on.
Oh, my God, out of nowhere. And you knew at any moment he could do that. Any moment.
Oh, yeah, and it was dangerous to be anywhere near the rim.
I mean, it was almost like he would hold the rim, grip it, and try and throw it to the ground after he dunked the basketball. There was just a fury that came with that springy athleticism. Now, Calhoun is of course, a guard, and so there's more agility that comes with it side to side.
Yeah, he didn't have the length.
But, like, you take notice when they have the ball. It's the same thing. It's the same feeling. And then for Patrick Williams, it reminds me of that when you're just talking about the second jump or the ability to just in a straight line jump up in the air.
Scotty does that to a lot of people these days.
It's not like Sardar is going to crash the boards and be Patrick Williams or even Derwin Kitchen, but you get my point. It's just there are certain players where you're like, that is completely different. And what's amazing is now at this program, with as many blue chippers as we've brought in, one-and-done types over the last handful of seasons, he still looks different, which tells you all you need to know about what the ceiling is like for him.
It's exciting, yeah. So, James, I don't know what it is. I'm gonna guess it's the best on the team. I'll have to ask him. James also asks, what is up with Raekwon Evans? Yeah, it's an observation, right? That's fair. This is 3 of the last 4 times been on the floor not scoring. I don't know. I think he's had a hard time all year long in terms of role, but I don't believe he lacks for confidence. I don't think he's shook in any way by these performances. You know, last night, you barely know he's on the team when you just look at the box score.
He was extremely important up at Pitt, though, given that MJ didn't score a point. You had real problems there, especially with MJ's injury. And then he goes to the line 12 times, hits 10 free throws.
Yes,
he scores 12 points on 4 shots from the field. So there is value, and he did perform for us on the road. So it could be that he's required to play extra again on Saturday if MJ's not good to go.
Well, one thing I would observe and point out about this team is that a lot of these guys have had those kinds of games. There have been a stretch of 2-3 games where you go, man, I don't think we haven't figured out how to utilize so-and-so within this grouping. Maybe we need to put him in a different position because this isn't working out with this group on the floor. He's the last option. You know, I think back to the beginning of the season, they really struggled to figure out what to do with Malik Osborne. And Malik Osborne was already an established player. We already knew what he could be. We've seen it. And you love his body type. You love his hustle and his toughness and the physicality. And you were just wondering, maybe he doesn't quite fit in with this group, you know, with the additions that we have and what we're trying to do. And then they figured it out. And he figured it out. And then just like that, you realize, oh, okay, just took a little time. Well, Calhoun's very similar, going back to your original part of the question. Calhoun's kind of figured out, like, what am I in this group? You know, I can't come in and be selfish. I got to defer to these other veterans who have proven it time and again, and they're a bigger part of the offense. And when do I shoot? When do I pass it up? What is it I've got to do? What are they relying on me to do? Raekwon Evans is a guy that has shown us he can be great in stretches. He can be a guy that even takes over facets of a game for 4 and 5 minutes at a time. He's done that before. But that leads me to my next point. The willingness for any one of these guys when it's not going well, where they're not, they're not controlling the basketball, they're not the guy with the ball in their hand, they can do other things to help. Almost all of them, to a man, do a very good job of not allowing the frustrations or perceived frustrations that one might have if they're not scoring to affect their defense. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the floor. They all continue to play good defense, and they fill a role even when it's not going well for them offensively. And I think these are all things that add up to why Florida State is such a difficult matchup, because any given time, any given week, or any given game, Florida State's got different guys that can beat you and others that are willing to defer when that's happening for the others.
Yeah, it's engagement. And that's the one thing last night with Sardar, because he still made some stupid plays and low IQ plays. He's still getting used to the speed of the game and the system, and I get all that. I'll get mad sometimes, but I love the engagement. He's always willing to look back at the bench for more instruction or to call himself out. Mm-hmm. It's always about feedback. It's not like he goes into his own little world and he's like, well, I'm doing it the right way. It's going to be all right. You can tell that the way that his mind is working, he is trying to assimilate the things he's learning in practice and, put them into practice on the court. Sometimes when you have somebody who is that gifted, they don't fit that way. And sometimes you take a risk on a JUCO kid because the habits have been formed the wrong way. But once again, it's somebody that's brought not just from the high school ranks, It fits the culture. Fits the culture of what we're trying. He's trying to improve. You can see it in his body language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they're not going to bring in anybody who doesn't have the willingness to do that, right? To learn or to fit in or to play a different role than they played from their previous stop.
But still, it's hard to take your hands off the wheel and watch that process, because at some point you're going to take a chance on somebody who has incredible talent, right? That might not fit your culture. Like, that feels like at some point you're going to. But Ham hardly ever does. I mean, at this point in his program's history, in this stage of his development, even if you bring in somebody who has lottery pick ability, for the most part, they're right there in the culture. They fit the right way.
Yes, lottery picks to come off the bench. I mean, he does it all the time. Lottery picks coming off the bench. Barring injury, Calhoun, Balsa, Gray, and Barnes, writes James.
Well, that's a long question.
Will be in the NBA. Well, I'm expounding with each element of the question, because I didn't get back to James, who asked a question, I think, on yesterday's show, and I feel guilty about that, and it's a worthy question. But also, I think it's a fun way, it's an avenue to kind of talk about the team from a different approach. You know, we're getting an observation from a fan of the program who's paying close attention to what we're building here, and he wants opinions about, you know, these guys that he's, you know, feeling pretty good about right about now. And he writes, barring injury, Calhoun, Balsa, Gray, and Barnes will be in the NBA at some point. There should be a 30 for 30 on Ham. Yeah, that's well, we certainly sing the praises often for Coach Hamilton. He's no longer a guy not getting the recognition he richly deserves. So that's good. That is something that's happened. You know, I take great delight in seeing the amount of national basketball who, when Florida State is playing in a primetime game and say they get out to a 10, 12-point lead, and all of a sudden they're looking like they're about to overwhelm a ranked team or somebody that was, you know, big money, for example, when they killed Virginia. You could have found analysts, you know, on pin marks all over the globe that cover basketball saying, man, Ham's done it again. Look at this team. They're long, they're hungry, they're unselfish, they're skilled, the bench is deep. You know, I saw that in some form of a tweet all over the college basketball landscape. So he's getting recognition, which is great. And as to Barnes and Balsa and Gray and Calhoun, and he's talking about the NBA, I agree with you. I think all those guys could end up in the NBA. We know Barnes will. He's going to be a lottery pick. Gray is playing his way into the league. Unfortunately for us, it feels like he's playing his way into the league right now, like after this year. And I will tell you this, there are people out there that will make the case that Balsa leaves after this year, and I don't want that to happen, but he's a little bit on the older side. He's shown enough from a skill set upside that the league would look at that and say the combination of his height and size and relative ease with which he moves in that body type and his ability to show that at times he can be a stretch five, so the modern game means he can pull you away from the basket and shoot it. The touch is there. If you look at the stroke, it's a good-looking stroke. It's not like it's an accident that those shots fall. That's a good-looking shot. You could see it. You could see him maybe deciding,
how much money do you want to make? You want to just start the clock, or you want to make some big money?
I'm with you, buddy. Lobby all day long for him to come back. I think it would be great, obviously, if he did. But it is a possibility. I don't think it's absurd to say that we could find out that he chooses to leave.
I got a feeling that even if the grade comes back okay, that Gray might be back. He seems to like it. He seems to like the role of leader. He's fitting into that naturally, and it's happening really fast.
Don't disagree. Here's the problem. Here's why I don't think he will. And I'm sad because I didn't think that he was good enough before. Now I do. How much better can he get? What's he going to do next year when he's a year older? What else is he going to do?
It is simply a matter of he could improve his three-point shot a little bit.
Yeah, he was 0 for 1 last night.
And maybe that becomes a primary part of his game that he could show that, I can loft up 6 a night, something like that at the next level. But I think it's a matter of probably looking at his position group this year and next and seeing which is the better year to enter the draft. There's a lot of dudes that are like him. They're not built like Raekwon is, but they're playing the wing, and they're one of those type players, and there's 12 of them this year. Next year there's 7. All right, maybe he stays. That's where you need somebody who knows the inside and out of the draft on your team to advise you in those moments.
Well, and those guys will get a really honest assessment, and, this is another thing that you can celebrate about the program. If guys are good enough to go, it's not like the staff holds them back. Go.
And every time we lose one, we weep a little bit and we replace in terms of production. But, You just wish at some point, you want maybe one or two of those guys to stick around an extra year because we might have already been to a Final Four, maybe multiple Final Fours
Right.
if you had Kamigali stick around, if you had Obiagu not transfer out, or a couple of the guys. Like if Vassell came back this year, are you kidding? I understand where he went in the draft, but could you imagine? We knew Patrick Williams was likely to go. But if Vassell said, all right, I'll stick around for one more year.
Well,
oh, my God.
And I hate to bring up this reference because it's a reminder of what they accomplished, but you got to give credit where credit's due. A big part of what we talk about with that run that Florida had was that inexplicable decision by all those guys who loved playing together and loved being there at college and around one another. They just decided to come back. You got to get lucky in that way. I mean,
yes.
That's just luck. That really is. I mean, listen, Florida State has developed an unbelievable atmosphere. The kids love being around one another. Yeah, that's fine, but when millions of dollars are at stake, I don't know too many people collectively as well say, yeah, let's come back.
Well, and in truth, if he goes, let's just say Balsa stays and Gray goes, then you have him and Malik. Malik has done a lot in the last month to really help. And we're talking about, even Leonard admitted when you asked him in the interview here, where does he fit? And Leonard's like, we don't know yet. We're not so sure.
Yeah.
But if Gray goes, then Malik fits, and he's going to be a featured player in this team, in this offense and defense next year.
Should, per the AP, any team selected at the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments be impacted by COVID-19 and forced to withdraw, there is a contingency plan now to quickly replace the school in the bracket. I've been kind of wondering about this. There will not be any replacements once the tournaments begin, however. The NCAA detailed the plan in an announcement today ahead of Selection Sunday for the men's field March 14th and the women's field March 15th. The first priority in replacing any team will be to ensure that all 31 conferences playing will be represented. That would mean if a school from a one-bid league drops out, then it would be replaced by a team from that same league. Should the team withdrawing be from a conference with multiple bids, then a selection would be made from those at-large teams considered when the field was announced but just missed out.
Okay, so teams 69 through 75 are on high alert. It's like being an alternate in a golf tournament.
Exactly right. One significant part of the plan is there will be no seating changes once the field's released. The incoming team will assume the position in the bracket of the team it replaces. So if Gonzaga receives a number 1 seed in the tournament, is forced out of the field, there are no other teams from the West Coast Conference, then the replacement team from that league would be a 1 seed for that region. The same would be true for any at-large team coming in for the Bulldogs if the WCC does have a second team in the field.
This is how Duke gets in, man. This is how they get in. Michigan's going to come down with it. Duke's going to get a 1 seed.
Well, listen, Duke's actually going to get in on their own merit. They're winning a bunch of games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Should any automatic qualifier be deemed unavailable to play before the bracket is announced, the conference may specify a replacement based on criteria submitted before Friday. The highest-ranked 4 at-large schools that are not included in the field can be considered replacement teams. The teams will be ordered 1 through 4, be required to continue testing protocols for COVID-19 in case they are later considered as a replacement team.
Boy, if you're number 1 on that list, you got a really good chance. You got a real good chance that something comes up.
Yeah, if any team is forced out for medical reasons, then its opponent advances automatically. You get a bye, you win, you move on.
Wait a minute. So what would the replacement team do?
So I guess what they're saying is no teams joining the field once the tournament begins.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, we go back to that. Now the tournament's begun, and we've got a problem, and we're in round 2.
You can't have a marker?
Yeah, we're not going over.
We go grab Wake to be a marker just so we can get some work in?
Yeah. So, yeah, once this thing has begun, Tom, that's it. That's all. We get to round 2, and you can't go. We win! On to the Sweet 16 we go.
Oh, boy. On a Monday in April, Florida State playing for the Nationals. Oh, my. And what a development we have here on CBS, friends.
Let me tell you something. If you ever want to see somebody cheat the system and absolutely discard others' health, let somebody be in the Final Four and have their starting center come down with COVID. How quickly does that turn into? Everything's fine here. No problems. Let's get it on. There's no way they're disqualifying somebody in the Final Four. I know this isn't true, and it's a dour, dark subject, but man, I thought I was done reading stories, and I'll tell you why. When things are revealed that are particularly heinous or sad or devastating to hear about a sport, about something that is systemic in a sport, it could be, the way that wrestlers, for example, and I'm talking about collegiate wrestling and things like that. I remember when I was younger, there was a rash of guys that got really sick because to make weight, they had to do crazy things. And you would see people running with a trash bag over their body, right? And guys, in some cases, got so dehydrated, they had to be rushed to the hospital. In some cases, died. Some ruined their careers. And it was then kind of approached differently, re-examined, this idea that this is how it's always been done to cut weight. This is how you do it. And coaches got in trouble all over the country. Like, hey, stop doing that. You can't, these are kids, right? Or young men. So, there's a lot of extremes still in wrestling, but they changed the way they go about it because they have greater knowledge and it exposed a problem within the sport. So all sports have had these issues, whether it's corruption in boxing. I mean, good Lord, there's too many governing bodies. They can never agree upon who's doing what and what you're fighting for. And it pisses me off because it ruins the sport. And boxing's been in trouble for a long time because they're so disorganized. But to my point here, has every former U.S. Olympic gymnastic coach now been indicted for being basically a pedophile of some kind? I mean, Jesus, every month there's another story. All of these coaches, every one of them, if they're male, inappropriately touch these women that they coached. It's insane. There's another story on this from a former U.S. Olympic gymnastics coach. This guy's name is John Geddert. He's charged with human trafficking in addition to sexual assault and everything else under that umbrella that is disgusting to read about. But we've been reading these stories about Olympic gymnastic coaches for 20 years. What's going on? Get a grip. How are we not hiring people that can, get it together?
They must have gotten kicked out of the seminary on their way to being a priest.
It's bizarre.
What am I going to fall back and do? Gymnastics.
Formerly owned and coached at Twister's Gymnastics Club in Diamonddale, Michigan. And they're all in Michigan, too, by the way. Sorry, Michiganders. You got problems. These guys, if you're a male if you're a male gymnastics coach in Michigan who's on the up and up, he just loves gymnastics, really cares for the kids, wants them to win, and he's looking around like, what in the world?
He's like looking in the mirror. I'd look so much better with a mustache, but I
can't grow one.
I'm a gymnastics coach.
I can't do it.
I'm screwed. Nobody would come. They would not work for me. They would not take their kids to me.
Hundreds of women say that also this was connected to Larry Nassar, who was prolific in the worst kind of way. My God, the more you read that story, you're like, what was going on for 20 years? I mean, Larry couldn't walk down the hall without doing something illegal.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
It's bizarre. This guy faces 20 counts now of human trafficking and forced labor, 1 count of sexual assault, second degree. You keep going on and on and on with the sexual assaults. There's a lot of levels to this. He also is charged with racketeering and lying to police officers. I love the last part. And another thing, we think you lied to us when you asked you whether or not you were sexually trafficking women. You said no. We're going to throw that into this. I'm not laughing at the seriousness of this. I'm laughing at the kind of charge that's on the tail end of all of these charges. There's like, and another thing, he lied to the police. You don't say. Yeah, he lied to the police. I don't think he's going to own up to the other complaints that have been levied against him.
Well, it's not just the coaches. I'm looking at this article, the Wire report, and former USA Gymnastics CEO Steve Penny was arrested on evidence of tampering charges. Arrested on, that's a poorly written sentence. He was charged with tampering in 2018. So now you have the coach's coach, the CEO, USA Gymnastics, the head honcho, not just people at Michigan State that are tied into the USA program. It's like it goes all the way to the top. Like, damn it. That's unfortunate.
Oh, it's to say the least. Yes, the mistakes I've made are most unfortunate, Joe Paterno. Yeah, I just every time I don't care anything about women's gymnastics. I watch it like you watch it once every 4 years or something. When we sit
even
down,
then, it's like I don't know.
Well, I marvel at anybody that can do the balance beam. I don't know how anybody does that. That could be a 40-year-old man, and I'd watch it. I'm just saying, how in the hell does somebody dance on a thing that skinny and jump around and all that? I don't understand how anybody does
So do you think maybe it's just me, but, as you get older, right, you phase into different sports that are more passive. Like, so Golf Channel is now part of my routine a little bit more than it used to be 5 years ago.
I watch it all the time.
And I love the game, but I watch the majors. And, Do you think that the Olympics, as you get older, just become less and less interesting?
Well, listen, a couple of things about the Olympics.
Because it does for me.
Well, also, we ended up exposing the Olympics. I don't mean you and me, but journalism exposed how Olympic bids were garnered.
Between that and FIFA, yeah.
You became embittered when you realized collectively how corrupt not only the process of who gets the games and how they arrived at those locations, but also we found out the athletes, like 3/4 of the people competing, have seen entire groups, like entire competitors, say swimmers, get busted for cheating, being on steroids. So then you're just sitting here going, well, what is this? I mean, the purity that people associated with the Olympics is long since gone. Nobody buys it anymore.
Yeah, that's part of it.
So when you realize that something is as corrupt from the top down, and then the competitors themselves are not abiding by the credo, well, yeah, after a while it gets a little bit easier to be cynical about what you're watching here. This isn't the same as when I was a little kid watching the Olympics 1980 Lake Placid, which, by the way, that anniversary was recently in the news, obviously, and it's still Miracle on Ice is still my favorite sports moment ever. I don't know that I would feel that way about anything in the Olympics ever again, right? Well, certainly not right now. Is there anything that could happen in the Olympics where you'd get teary-eyed?
No.
I mean, as a nation, now there was a political climate at that time too, but that aided that.
I think the challenge would be, even though FIFA is a disgusting organization.
Yes, the USA winning the World Cup would be, first of all, it'd be a miracle. But yes, or even having a chance to go. I mean, hell, we win a game in our group and people fall over themselves.
Correct. I mean, we made it to the knockout stages. I know, a couple. We didn't even qualify this last time.
It's incredible. You can play the clip.
Then, that was Landon Donovan years and years ago. That was we made it to the knockout stages. We lost to Ghana. I think it was that time around. But we had the watch parties when we were here working for this station, and I think it was Belgium we played, and Howard had to make like 25 saves. It was almost like a hockey effort of how many saves he had to make. But I think as I get older, I enjoy the Winter Olympics more than the summer because they're just weird, and I appreciate the weird rather than.
Oh, I think I've always appreciated the Winter Olympics more. If you're a track and field guy, you scoff at that. I get that. I mean, there is a purity to track and field. I mean, running, but even that got bastardized.
But like the skeleton, the bobsled, curling, and hockey, that's a hell of a top four. Speed skating's really awesome, both the long track and like the short track stuff that Apollo Anton Ono did.
Yeah. Love speed skating. Love the bobsled, the luge. I love all of it.
What about the cross-country skiing? I forget.
Don't care at all. It's the most boring thing on earth.
Wait, but it's the one with the rifles.
No, I don't care.
You don't care?
No. It's not to watch it. It's boring. They're just, there they are. Shuffle along in the snow forever. Yeah, you can't. It's not spectator friendly. I appreciate the level of skill and overall commitment to fitness one must have to go through the mountainside shooting at targets and then busting your ass through the snow to the next thing. But it's boring to watch. I can't do it. Downhill, incredible. The jumps, unreal.
Yeah.
They've added snowboarding to it now. That too kicks ass.
It does. But it's not
awesome.
X Games, so it's nice. You can still keep the X Games at arm's reach and be like, all right, I just want to taste. That's it.
No, I love it. Maybe we would be, inclined to care about, watch, embrace, celebrate, be enthralled by the summer games if every time we looked up somebody wasn't getting arrested for touching all the athletes. Jesus, man. Get it together. This has been going on for more than 20 years. These poor girls, I'm not even kidding. This is ridiculous. These poor girls, if you go into gymnastics, I'm going to bet the odds are you're going to be molested. Based on the headlines, I'm going to say, and this is a big leap, if you're in gymnastics and you get to an elite level, be careful. You're on your way into Molestationville, which is the whole preparation for the Olympics.
That is a giant leap.
Of course it is. I'm not talking locally in Tallahassee girls that are going to gymnastics, although if I were a father of one, I'd be very nervous. I mean, every headline I read, every one.
That's the only thing that other than Simone Biles whooping ass.
And she had issues, and everybody's had issues.
Or Nastia, or Carrie Strug, or like these random one-offs. You don't hear about
Mary
the
Lou
regionals.
Retton.
You don't hear about the regionals, with softball.
No,
the only
no.
way it's going to make the headlines is because of a story like this. So it's a little bit self-fulfilling.
I'm just saying, you can go back a ways, and when you do, you end up finding out horror stories in gymnastics.
Right.
No other sport do we hear this about.
I agree. I remember the
It's out of
scandal
control.
about how old are the Chinese gymnasts? Are they really 14 years old, or are they 11?
Gymnastics is a dirty game, man.
Romanians.
Oh, forget it.
They've got reputations.
They got 5-year-olds out there. It's ridiculous.
I agree. It's a little uncomfortable. It's a little uncomfortable to watch gymnastics for many reasons, and one of them is you're right. No, it's just like these are children. And you're like, this is too early in life, man. What are we doing? I don't care if they're a little less agile when they're 25. Let's keep the age bracket a little bit more reasonable here.
Yeah, and you get uncomfortable because the pall that hangs over the event isn't that they're just being pushed to this level and they're so young. It's that they're in an environment where rampant sexual abuse has taken place for 30 years. So you can't help as you watch. You can hope, but you can't help but think as you watch, something going on here. Mm-hmm. I'm a little worried. I mean, maybe this coach is on the up and up.
It's like walking out to a junior day event.
Yeah, you don't like it. You don't like it.
Something doesn't feel right when I'm out here.
Yeah, you feel dirty. Not for the same reasons, but you just feel
not
like
for the same reasons. No. That would be really bizarre. That's like Greco-Roman stuff.
Junior hockey had that problem in Canada.
Did it really?
Oh, yeah. And there have been more than one guy come out years later and say...
Well, I know that happened to Theo Fleury.
That's right.
That's
true. It happened more than Theo Fleury, and Theo Fleury was a brave man to come forward the way that he did.
He was a total a-hole to me when I asked for an autograph as a kid way back when.
Now you know why.
Oh, yeah. The moment I heard that, I was like, forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say?
Fighting demons.
Oh, okay. This is something else.
I don't want to know what you thought I said.
You don't.
Fighting demons, man.
What?
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. don't know why. Sometimes I take solace in, our plight from a football standpoint when I read headlines involving Texas. Regents approved $34.2 million deal for Sarkisian. Then I'm reminded, boy, those fans are frustrated. You went up to Austin. You got the sense of their frustration. You echoed some of the things that I would make fun of them about whenever I would talk and compare and contrast Oklahoma's success compared to that of Texas.
Oh, they've got a real, for being Texas, right? And one of the brands of Nike, if you think about Nike collegiate brands, Texas is right there. It's one of the first ones you think of. They have such a Napoleonic complex regarding Oklahoma.
Can you imagine?
They are obsessed with Oklahoma
more
than they are with their own successes.
Every year. Yeah.
It's really unhealthy.
That gets back to the old. Well, first of all, if you think about it, and I know why they're angry, and they should be angry. If you're Texas, there's no excuse. There is no excuse for Oklahoma. Look where Oklahoma is. Good Christ, what are we doing? Why are you getting out-recruited by Oklahoma on the regular? That should not happen. And then to get your head handed to you every year, you just got to be like, oh, this is what we're Texas. We're supposed to be better than everybody else in the world. We're too good for the United States. And we can't win a football game against Oklahoma. Cowpokes out in the middle of nowhere. It's hilarious. I love their anger. It's funny to me, as you well know.
Because you're saying it's rational in a way.
It is. They're right to be. If I were a Texas fan, I would be furious right now. Driving down the road, just furious. I would be, this is ridiculous. Once a day, I just slap my steering wheel, pissed off that this is the plight we find.
Nick does not want to come here. Why? Why wouldn't he want to come here?
Well, it's just you'd be thinking to yourself, when is it ever going to change? I mean, I know they thought Tom Herman was going to save the day. Of course they did, but we rolled our eyes and laughed at Tom Herman.
After a year or two. We liked him when he got hired. We thought that was a decent hire.
We thought, because he had found a way to win recruiting battles at little old Houston, that he ought to be able to parlay that with Texas' gigantic budget and reach into something special. Turns out he couldn't. And
all the forehead kissing,
didn't
before
make a
lights
difference.
out in the world didn't make a difference.
I mean, he went 32-18 in 4 seasons. Didn't win a Big 12 championship because they never do. And, basically they hands to the sky.
Oh, they killed me, too, on a cover against Oklahoma the year that I think they won the regular season. There was a matchup.
They lost power for 2 seconds.
Right.
Then he saw them.
It's like
you've been on the wrong end of some pretty funny losses.
Yeah, circumstances, right? Yeah, so the power
I was
goes
watching
out.
at the exact same time you were. The power didn't go out. The
channel
TV,
went out.
The channel went out. When they came back, it's a beautiful catch in the corner of the end zone for
Well,
Oklahoma, wasn't it?
That was the touchdown for them to it switched the cover. So Oklahoma's now covering. Texas is going to go score immediately an onside kick. And they get down to the 15-yard line with whatever time left. Maybe a minute, maybe 45 seconds. So they're going in to score. And the power or the TV signal cuts out. I tried to pick it up on the app.
It's intercepted.
Or a kid drops it or something.
No, it was picked off. It was picked off in the end zone, and it's an incredible pick.
Yeah.
That's what it was, because I remember laughing, going, oh, poor Tom, because when it came back on, that kid one-handed in the corner and picked it off.
But it wasn't the play. It was how about this? And I'm like, how about what?
Yeah, what happened? And they showed the replay.
What an unbelievable interception.
Yeah.
I need to go outside.
They were at
go for a walk.
You're exactly right. That play cracks me up. I still remember it because I always watch Oklahoma, Texas, obviously, with family ties.
Because the touchdown throw before it from Oklahoma is absurd.
It's absurd.
It's absurd.
It's an unbelievable play. So you got killed by 2 catches. One throw and catch for Oklahoma that changes the dynamic.
It's on a 3rd or 4th down. They would have kicked a field goal.
That's correct.
It was
and
a 3rd down.
It's an amazing catch.
Oh, my
and
God.
you get screwed. You're like, really? The kid's going to make that play. But then Texas drives very easily. Boom, 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 boom. They get to the 12 or something like that, and he rolls right and throws to the corner of the end zone. He's got a tight end. That kid, the safety, comes over and makes this crazy contorted one-handed it looked like something Julio Jones would do, and the TV power cut out, or the feed cut out, and just as they came back they were prattling on about what an amazing play it was, and we didn't see that live. They're like, have a look at this.
No. I didn't even see the snap. It's it is 1st and 10 from the 12. I'm like, okay,
here we go.
Here we go. We're gonna. This is why you take the points.
Yeah,
because it's it's prevent defense.
Backdoor
Who cares?
nonsense. Yeah,
but that happens a lot for a reason. You're like, okay, and then the power. Oh, Wait a minute.
What's going on? What happened? I want to know what happened.
Got to go to ESPN2. Does that
Yeah,
work?
yeah,
Oh, it
nope.
does. Oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just this channel. It's only this channel.
And then when you went back, it comes back on, and you can hear like music. The bands are playing,
Yeah,
but you
like,
can't figure it
touchdown.
out. You're like,
All
what
right,
happened?
yeah.
Wait a minute. That's not Texas's fight song.
What a play.
What's going on? That's not. That sounds like Boomer
An
Sooner.
interception. That's
Yeah, I got to tell you guys out there, you guys know if you're a sporting guy or gal, eventually you're all on the wrong side of something. Bad Beats is an entire segment on Van Pelt's show, and it's the best segment on the show. And we all have fun with these things. It's hilarious. And I now know, I mean, if you're going to play the game, you've got to have thick skin. I've been on the wrong end of some really weird and bizarre things. I've also won in ways that I should not have, that are just bizarre, like the 10th of a second technical foul call.
Yeah. I think the ref forgot.
Yeah, I'm still laughing about that. I was, whoa, wait a minute, the quarter's not over. Come on, Zion. He hit both free throws. Anyhow, so now he's my favorite player. But anyhow, that comes with the territory. But you in particular, and I always know your bets on the weekend, just like you know mine, and we've probably taken turns without the other one knowing it, saying audibly to either our significant other or the wind, oh, poor Tom. And you've probably said, oh, Jeff.
Ooh, that's no good.
That's
usually
terrible.
Like, ooh, that's no good.
That's
not going to do
Jeff's
it.
got Indiana. This is not, he's going to be pissed. You know, like that. Yeah. So there it is.
What I do know is that Florida, Tennessee, I need a cigarette after every year because the two 95-yard drives this year killed me. However, I had
with fourth down conversions to boot.
Not 180 yards in a quarter on two drives.
By sorry-ass Tennessee.
The one drive Florida had with Trask, he got right down the field and they stalled at the 30. They ended up punting instead of kicking a field goal. You got a good kicker.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
But a couple years ago, who's the kid who played for Arkansas this year? The quarterback.
Franks.
Felipe Franks.
Yeah.
I took the under in that game. And at the end of 3 quarters, there's maybe 20 points on the board, and it was like 42. And it's going to hit because they're going to go to overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was like 47. It ends up being tied at 20. I'm like, this is going to go to overtime. I'm going to lose because in the last 10 minutes, these teams decide to play offense. But then Franks throws the walk-off touchdown.
Right.
And they don't kick the extra point. It was 47 and a half. It hit at 46, and that was a walk-off play. That's the loudest I've ever cheered anything that Florida did.
Mm-hmm.
But every year, for some reason, Florida, Tennessee,
I leave it alone.
It's ridiculous.
I don't touch it. It's a bizarre thing. Yeah, you... I've probably 3 times in the last, year and a half, 2 years of football, I've said out loud to Christy as she walks by, oh, geez, poor Tom. And then her go, what? That kid for Wake just missed the field goal after making it twice in a row. They called timeout. Poor son of a bitch is going to lose this one.
False start.
Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you're going to listen live via the streaming free always. You can listen on the old-fashioned radio anytime you want as well. We appreciate, however it is, you take in the Jeff Cameron Show. Tip of the cap, and much obliged. Much appreciated. We're also available on YouTube. Thanks for watching, YouTubers. You can email us if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameron.show. A lot of basketball talk today, and partly because, I don't know how much I can just dive into the upcoming NFL, projected drafts, the mocks that are out there everywhere right now. They're fun. This is the overhyped season, but,
Yeah, you get 2 months to do that, and if you're not picking in the top 10, it's a little bit different. When you're picking in the top 10, you start looking at those drafts in earnest. Like, we all look at them, but you really, really break them down, and you look and see what the consensus is of who's going to fall where if you're always picking 8th or 12th, which is where the Bucks were stuck for a long time. No, oddly enough, I think for the first time in maybe 4 or 5 years, on the eve of March here, we're not that far away, I'm more interested in spring football. Typically, I kind of have to talk about it, but I don't feel it. I'm feeling it this year.
Yeah, last year you cracked me up because everything was so weird and you didn't get to go over there.
I went to the workouts.
Yeah.
I never went to the practice.
But I could sense you're like, because we had been burned and we'd coming off 2 terrible seasons, and you were kind of like, the new guy's going to say all the right things. I'll believe that we're going to be good when I see it. And then we couldn't see it. I mean, we did. I went to 3 practices, but that was the only 3 they got. And so you really could not engage fully into talk about what the season was going to be. This is very different, though. I am very pumped for spring football. In fact, it kind of hit me this morning thinking about, mainly the game was a nothing game last night. Boat race Miami, as predicted. Second segment this hour. We'll get into this program. And, again, just how amazing they are right now. How you can take games in the conference for granted, that you can predict blowouts, that guys can sit that are pretty much premier starters for you, and it really is irrelevant if you're playing a middling to below average team in this league. You're going to blow them out. That's what Florida State is now. More on that in a moment. This morning, I did get up thinking a little bit more about 2 things. A, the North Carolina game this Saturday. I'm really excited about that. You and I have to do a court report. Looking forward to it. You guys will be able to hear that tomorrow, even though I'm going to be out getting a little quick medical procedure done. Should be okay. No big deal. But we'll have new content for you is the point. Secondly, I was thinking about spring football. You're right. February's nearly gone. It's a quick month. You look up at the calendar and you realize, man, here we go, March. Weather's changing outside.
It is.
It's starting to get beautiful. And I am eager to see what kind of football team we're going to field. There was an article yesterday, Tom, about the most impactful transfer portal players. And, of course, number 1 on the list, and this was about the nation. They were looking at the entire country of college football, and they were saying Mackenzie Milton was the biggest get for any program anywhere. In particular, FSU, that has had, as the article put it, quarterback issues. And I thought, that was awfully kind of them.
Yeah.
Quarterback issues.
Holy
they've had a few.
Batman.
Yeah, they've had a few quarterback issues. Kind of like the Patriots have a quarterback issue. They got to find somebody, right? Well, we found somebody. We found somebody who's not only, I think, going to be great for this program, but has done it, has won big. He threw 37 touchdowns to 9 interceptions the last time you saw him in an undefeated season, was prolific. Okay, well, we've seen a quarterback can really alter your fortunes above and beyond areas of pretty much drought, right? If you're average to terrible at certain segments of your team, if you've got a good quarterback, it goes a long way to cover that up.
So this is where last year I'll take the insight I had from looking at the workouts and apply it to this season. And I hope, come on, let us stand at Hauser, even if it's 1 person per media outlet a day, so you can have most of the days. I'll take 1 or 2 here or there. Mm-hmm. But I can remember watching the workouts, and I was very impressed at the militaristic nature of it, how everything was organized. Even the GAs are down on their hands and knees, like squeegeeing and then wiping down the mats when they were doing these like somersault things.
Yeah.
It was great. It was really well choreographed. You're like, all right, I can see where he's trying to build some more accountability around here. Nobody's standing around doing nothing. But by the end of it, I thought, God, they're going to have a chip on their shoulder the size of Texas because they're tiny. This group is small. And that's where being around now for 10 years and seeing Jimbo's prime years when we won 29 straight and comparing those things, it helps because the team was small. At most positions, you're like, okay, you might be able to get by with good coaching and guile with these dudes, but you're not going to win anything big. You can't scare any big wins. I want to see this year with some of the new kids that are in here and the work that's been done with Coach Storms. Do we look a little bit more like a Florida State team? We're not going to be the size that we were back in those golden years, but do we look a little closer to that size? They're going to have the attitude part down, I think, this year, but you just got to get bigger, stronger, and faster.
Yeah, well, baby steps. Having the attitude shift in the right direction will be nice to witness. I mean, you'll have guys playing for each other. It's something we celebrate all the time with the basketball team, and it's something that you take for granted when a program is running at peak efficiency or playing well at all. We haven't had it in years to go along with not having good enough players. So it won't go unnoticed if guys are, checked in. They're all in for one another. They're working hard. They're pulling in the same direction. They seem to have a clue about what has to be done here and how long the road is. But you got to be right up here to even have a chance. The physical stuff takes longer though, because you have to transform your body. You got to get bigger and stronger. You got to bring in better prospects. The bottom line is people talk all the time. Why is it Alabama's offensive line looks so different than everybody else's? Well, obviously they've got a really good strength and conditioning program. Really good. Feed them well. Incredibly well. The Bama table, as I've noted for years, is real. But you know what else? They're starting at a different place.
Right.
The kid that comes in is already bigger, stronger than the kids we bring in. I mean, they're bigger, they're better prospects, and so it doesn't take as much nutrition to get them where they want to go. Yeah, we've got a long way to go in that regard. Bringing in better players is a good start. But the ones you have now, you do have to build up and get them in a hurry, bigger, stronger, faster. I think they'll be bought in, and you'll see some of that transformation.
Well, and they'll be able to continuously stay on the kids. That's the other thing from last year. It's just, Marvin Wilson is the perfect embodiment of everything that happened from the spring through the end of the season, right? Because we saw him, and he was in phenomenal shape. Attitude was sharp. His habits were good. Then COVID happens. Habits change. He gets out of shape. He's away from campus. He's not allowed to be the first guy in the building like he normally was. And you have a whole set of problems on your hands because you thought that was going to be the linchpin of the team.
Yeah, I think, honestly, that is an underrated aspect of what went wrong really from Jump Street for Norvell and his staff last year in that game, September the 12th against Georgia Tech. It starts there. We lose that game. Everything goes downhill from there. But even that game almost serves as a microcosm of all the problems, right? You get out there, everybody's pumped up. We go right down the field and score. There's energy. The fans are loud. What fans there are loud.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody's pumped about where it's going, and then you get a weather delay. And the fits and stops and starts really seem to be great representation for how this season was going to play out, the year of COVID, but also the ups and downs that Florida State was going to have to endure. They never seemed to recapture the momentum they had on the first drive, like ever again at any point other than a half against North Carolina, in which they held on for dear life. That is largely affected by the fact that they were never together in the offseason and they had to start fresh without having a place to launch because they could not flip the culture. They could not find out about kids. You never got them under the lights in a spring game like the one we're previewing now and talking about we're excited to see. You didn't know how kids were going to respond until you got out there and started playing games, and by then it was too damn late.
Well, the cool thing, too, is by the time spring practice is over in April, you may have a circumstance by which some of the older coaches, they're not having to wear those plastic face shields anymore. They can spit anywhere they want and yell anywhere they want because
not a great visual, but okay.
But that's something that's coming, man, is like the restrictions are being lifted. And by the time we get to fall camp, wait till you see. I mean, we're going to be in a much better place.
Yeah, it'll look like an honest-to-goodness fall camp, yes.
What we're talking about is not just the physical conditioning and continuous commitment, but it's also the mental burdens. Like, last year was really, really hard on these players. All the protocols they had to go through, all the sacrifices. When you're able to lift the burden of allowing them to walk into the training facility, lift weights like they used to do, and then if you go home and, listen, you got your studies done, you want to spend 2 hours at a happy hour, with your other co-ed friends, fine, go ahead and do it. That's going to make a world of difference for these kids.
Yeah, I brought this up. I was asked, Chuck Oliver and his producer, Dan, reached out to me and said, because they had Norvell on this week, and he said, is there anything that we should ask them that you're kind of curious about? And I said, well, I'll ask him when I get the chance here coming up real soon before the spring game. But, yeah, I'm wondering, Tom, you've been wondering about this too. We've had this conversation a lot. Did you really get to coach them the way you wanted to coach them? Did you have to just completely alter everything? Obviously, you had to alter your playbook. You could only use a small percentage of your playbook. But you really, and this applies to all coaches, but it's especially devastating when you're a first-year guy trying to flip culture. You couldn't coach those kids hard. You saw things that you immediately wanted to jump down somebody's throat for, but you had to think about that because opt-outs were a real thing.
Right.
And if you've got opt-outs, injuries, and COVID, you may not be able to field a team, as we saw late in the year. So I think it really made defenses suffer across the country.
Yeah.
You couldn't get on those guys and be red asses and enforce things physically and do the things you wanted. You couldn't hit the way you wanted to hit, so you're not nearly as physical, and we know what defense is, right? And you couldn't get on guys the way you normally would because you had to walk on eggshells. I think coaches had to alter everything about their approach.
Yeah, like if you're in a company, you have one bookkeeper because 2 quit. And they've got to do all the work for 3 people while you're working on it.
And you jump down their throat, you're screwed.
Right. The margins on the P&L report aren't right. You know, not the money, talking about the spacing. You know, you're not going to kill them for a spacing error when they're overwhelmed.
Going to have to let that go right now.
Those kids are all overwhelmed.
Yeah, they were. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. feels like it should be a Libations Friday, but again, the knowledge is that, of course, we're not live tomorrow, but we do have a court report, and we'll keep reminding you of that. I am really still excited about Florida State, North Carolina, this being the final path to a rest of the season undefeated stretch. We're not losing to Boston College or Notre Dame. This is it. This is the game. Win this game, you're going to finish out the season on, what, an 11-game win streak? I think that's right.
There was some speculation that, Boston College may call it a day on their season. It's an undercurrent because of the problems they had with their coach and then one of their top players they dismissed from the program, and they might just say, the hell with this thing. So what I decided to do last night was craft a scenario by which Florida State would lose, and this is really simple. You're just adding to the wins and loss column. Florida State loses to North Carolina, beats Notre Dame, and now they're sitting at whatever the record would be in that circumstance. I think that's 11-3. And then North Carolina in conference. And Virginia wins out, and they go 14-4. Maybe they schedule an extra game, and they go 14-4 in conference. Well, guess what? Our winning percentage would still be better than Virginia's. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at a magic number for clinching the conference, I think it's 1. You get me one more win in the next week and a half because of what Virginia did last night in losing to NC State, broken as they are. Yeah, man, I think it's a reality now. You could pretty much say, it's not 100%, but you can pretty much say we've done the job. We are now back-to-back ACC regular season champions.
As it sits right now, Florida State has an 833 win percentage. Virginia has a 733 win percentage. We broke Virginia. The bottom line is we broke Virginia. They came in here, they got absolutely boat raced, and now they can't win. Now everybody's like, oh, you're not mighty at all. We can handle this. Virginia Tech, 6-7 in terms of win percentage. They're 8-4 in the ACC. Louisville 7-4 with a 636 win percentage. That's as of right now. Obviously, for Florida State, the overall record is 14-3. They have won 4 straight games. They're 7-0 at home now, 3-2 on the road. They are a top 15 team, whether you're looking at Ken Palm or the net rankings or whatever you're looking at. I think, again, that when you just add – it sounds odd because a win over Miami in and of itself, with the way that program right now sits, it's really an insignificant victory. You really didn't do anything. I'm not puffing out my chest because we went down to beat a depleted, sorry-ass, mailing-it-in Miami team. But I do value the win because of just the sheer total that it adds to your record. So when we've played so few games because of the 7 that were canceled, the chance to have a record that just on its face, when you look at the page, you go 20-3. Oh, my goodness. No doubt they're a 2 seed, but we can't do that, So we're 14. Just getting another road win and making that, say, 3-2. People, a lot of these committee folks are going to look at that and just be like, oh, well, they have a winning record on the road. They're undefeated at home. They only lost 3 games total. Very good team. Got it. They're great. So just stockpiling wins in and of themselves, even if they're not adding to the metrics.
Right. Well, and again, I think if you fortify what you're doing here, if you can run the table in the regular season and then compare yourself to Alabama, who lost to Arkansas last night unceremoniously.
Yeah.
I think they, after, I don't know, it was like the 17-minute mark, it's like a 42-21 run for Arkansas to finish that game.
Yeah. Arkansas's not bad, by the way.
No, it's not like they're bad.
Pretty good
but
team, yeah.
When you're trying to compare the resume on the 2-line or the 3-line between Florida State and these other teams, at some point, if they have 5 or 6 losses and we have 3, maybe even they get to 7 losses, that's got to matter. That's got to matter at some point. And so if you take care of business on Saturday, do what you need to do next week, this all becomes moot because you're either a strong 3 or in the field as a 2. And that would be back-to-back seasons that you'd be a top 3 seed. I know the tournament wasn't played last year, but we were in talks about a 1 seed last season. Mm-hmm. Hell yes, man. We are in position to do all these things yet again.
Yeah, the stunner of the night is that the rescheduled game, and they had to do, well, not rescheduled, the quickly scheduled because of a canceled game that North Carolina ended up playing because BC couldn't play. They grab Marquette, who on the surface you go, okay, they'll win that game. North Carolina was undefeated at home until last night. So it's a home game against a Marquette team that's not having a banner year. This is not a great version of Marquette. So I kind of assumed Carolina is going to win that game, and they're readying themselves for this big matchup against Florida State because it's a signature win if they can get it. And by the way, I do like that Florida State is now other people's signature win if you can get it. Like if you're a borderline team but you get a win over Florida State, that is a really big to-do. Like right now, Clemson has had a very good season, but it is enhanced greatly because of that win they got over Florida State. When you can beat a real team, a powerhouse like Florida State, and you're little old Clemson, that is a very big deal. And they should wear that as a badge of honor. Now, they got boat raced in the rematch, and we had to kick them back down into their hole. But that doesn't erase that first magnificent, perhaps program-shifting win for Clemson to beat a monster that is Florida State is a big deal.
You know, a little nuance, and I want to see what the ACC schedule looks like for the tournament. I don't know if it will extend out to Sunday or Monday this year, because the actual 64, round of 64, which I believe has been reclaimed as the first round of the NCAA tournament now. It's not, that starts Friday of that week. You don't have a Thursday and Friday like we typically do in a normal year where you just have the madness and everybody takes their lunch break at 12 and never comes back to work. It's now Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's a little bit bizarre. But the nuance there is if the ACC tournament is in fact played, then you would think you're more apt to go for it. You have an extra day of rest. If it's going to finish on time, if it's going to finish that Saturday or that Sunday in March, then what the hell's the difference? You don't have to worry about short rest.
Remember this, and I think it'll be this way forevermore, because I don't see why it would change now if it wasn't this way a year ago. They were going to play to win that tournament last year.
That's correct.
And he made it abundantly clear. They don't care about – this is about taking home the totals. Anything you can get, regular season, postseason, on down the line. They want to add to the record books. These things stand forever. It is a stamp of perfection or elite level play in this conference that you cannot then, of course, at any point ignore. He's adding to the ledger of accomplishment and cares deeply about winning these things. So it doesn't matter that I think, well, maybe we should rest our guys, try to win that first game and then, experiment a little bit. Nope, he's going to try to win it. And, okay, fine. That's, they're playing the tournament, might as well win it, especially if you get an extra day. Yeah, you're right. They'll go for it. They'll try to win it again.
Well, and, barring any other team losing, I think, do Virginia Tech and Virginia still play one more time? I got to take a look at the remaining schedule, but, as long as you don't completely fall flat on your face here in the next week and a half. And that could include a loss at North Carolina where they played really well because they've been gearing up for that game and overlooked Marquette. Then, I think it's a reality now. That was a stunning result for Virginia. You would think they'd be super pissed off about going 0-2 in a given week and NC State would score 42 or something
They're
like
at the JPJ. They give up 68 points. That is the fourth straight North Carolina State road win in the ACC. They have not done that since 1974. It is the Cavs' first home loss in 15 games, third straight setback overall. We are right there on the edge of claiming yet another regular season ACC championship. If you win Saturday, I would argue you can celebrate a championship because I don't think you're going to lose to Boston College if that game's even played, and I doubt you'll lose to Notre Dame. You got to show up and play that game,
right?
But it's not quite like the Miami game, but yeah.
No, the doomsday scenario would be something along the lines of Boston College says no, then you got to go to Cameron Indoor and play that game, and you've already lost North Carolina, and that's when you're like, oh. All right, this thing ain't over. Now you got to gear up for a final week because you'll get a really hungry Duke team looking for one more chance at the bubble.
Win for that Duke program to try to beat Florida State at this point. Boy, they'd have to be very proud.
Short of that, and listen, if you win at North Carolina on Saturday, it's over anyway.
Yeah.
But, man, it's amazing how quickly it went from they need to do work to catch Virginia to, it's all theirs. I think, was it about 9 days, 10 days?
Yeah, in the loss column, they're 2 games ahead of Virginia. And now in the win column, they're only 1 game back of Virginia. So they have really done what they've needed to do here, and Virginia has fallen on hard times. And I think if you're Virginia, Tony Bennett's got to be very concerned about the way his team's playing here. That was a perfect scenario for them to go home and win that game. And really, NC State was just better. They were better for most of the night. They were better. And Hey, listen, NC State's playing all right. The ACC's in a weird place right now because obviously Florida State's getting in and will be a high seed. It will likely be the only high seed the ACC gets. I'm talking about top 3 seed if things play out the way we're describing. But, Virginia's now lost 3 straight. They're 11-4, 15-6 overall. 15-6 is, and they get beat bad when they play good teams. So that the ledger doesn't look good for them right now.
Yeah, like Clemson's resume would be better at this point because they have more wins over good teams than Virginia does. Because they've got more than one of them.
They've also won 4 straight. They're 14-5 overall. They're playing good basketball. They just housed Wake Forest last night.
So here's it's kind of off the beaten path, but it gets back to the greater point of what's left in the ACC slate. Louisville's remaining schedule is the most interesting of any team left in the conference. On Saturday, after we're done, they're going to throw it to Cameron Indoor because it's Louisville at Duke. Then they play next week midweek. Louisville travels to Virginia Tech. Then Louisville hosts Virginia. The final weekend of the ACC regular season. So they are going to be a big factor in who finishes somewhere between 2nd and 6th in the conference. If we take care of business, that's all they're playing for, is 2nd through 6th in the conference, not 1st, because that's ours.
These are heady times, man. Just take it all in. Enjoy yourself. If you are a diehard Florida State basketball fan, you really, based on our history, and all the braggadocio that I do these days and the puffing up at the chest and sort of the teasing the other teams in the conference, I've never lost sight that this has never been an elite basketball program. It is currently the best program in the ACC. And it was last year. It is again this year. And they've got a top 3 class coming in next year. They routinely churn out NBA players in the first round. These days, they're churning out lottery picks. It is hard to wrap your mind around where they're at, but I do think it's necessary for us just to celebrate for a moment. I mean, there are older listeners out there, people that have supported the basketball program at Florida State for a very long time, long before we were ever on the air. And I used to run into these guys that were going to games yesteryear when I was 5 years old, and they would talk about how they dreamed of, and they could all cite the occasional all-world player. They could, Dave Cowens, people would bring that up. They would talk about getting to the finals and losing to UCLA and giving them a real game, unlike the rest of those teams that faced UCLA, that juggernaut that was Wooden's UCLA teams. But, you could easily identify singular seasons and players. They were so sparse and spread out that, these were blips on the radar. There are like 2-year windows, 3-year windows here and there. But they were legendary runs. Like everybody knew, the Bob Sura-led Florida State Seminoles, right? Everybody knew that Charlie Ward, Sam Cassell, Bob Sura team, Doug Edwards, Rodney Dobar. I knew that was the team that I always reflected on because I was in school here. So that's what that was. But there was no sustained success, and we certainly weren't a dominant team. We had a couple of good runs. Florida State right now is positioning themselves as the team to beat in the ACC. You're going to go into next season, and I would argue, and listen, we're smack dab into this one right now, but I'm going to argue that next year is the year that the preseason mags, I call them that. I mean, there's almost no such thing anymore. But the preseason predictions by the media that covers the ACC are finally going to reflect Florida State's recent dominance, recruiting rankings, and ability to play to their ability, their overall talent, year in and year out. Like, this is no longer viewed in any way as a fluke. They've got better players. They're better coached. I go back to my diatribe where I'm beating my fist on the table to say, stop looking for the other shoe to drop. We're better than these teams. We're better than you. Now, that is novel. It is fun. It is unique. It is not something that has historically been Florida State's role in this conference. Acknowledged. But it is what we are now. And they're all chasing.
And what it does is it validates and makes it a little bit more fun to look back at that run from 09 to 12 or, thereabouts. Right. And you can look at those teams and you can draft now. We were talking about this a few weeks ago, that if you played the game and you put the pool of Leonard Hamilton players here at Florida State, since he was here 55 years ago when he took the job, You could draft 2 or 3 full teams that would have incredibly impressive lineups and have a great debate over which team would win the battle. That's how many athletes of NBA caliber or professional caliber, some of the guys that were really good here went on to do things in Europe or other countries and other elite leagues that they just weren't good enough in the NBA, but they were really good college players. Like Tony Douglas was an NBA rotation player. He started a couple years. But, I mean, if you wanted to draft him on the all-FSU team under Coach Hamilton,
oh, yeah.
I mean, you could have that debate between him and some of the guys that we've seen the last few years. Because imagine him on this team. Like, those kinds of conversations can happen, and it could have happened back in the 90s about the football program. Only now can you have that conversation about the basketball program at the same level.
Yeah, it's so cool because of the people that have helped engineer this and have helped piece this together and sustain it, because we know them to be really good guys. I mean, I know you got to win for that to matter. Like, if you're just a good guy who loses all the time, you lose your job. But when I had a good conversation with somebody a week ago, ran into me. They were really nice. They listened to the show. They were complimentary. It was fun, and we kind of launched into this basketball conversation. And the guy admitted, like, I've never been a huge basketball fan, but I listen to you guys, and I can hear the excitement in your voice. And he said, I'm really proud of that team. And he goes, one thing I was telling my wife is when you watch Florida State basketball, you see hustle and passion and love and togetherness. And he said, and then I started thinking about it. I know I shouldn't have thought about it, but, I was going through all of our programs, and it's like the basketball team never have they ever had a guy get in trouble ever? I go, well, it's Leonard, man. It's Leonard and his staff. They're men of character. So they're kicking ass while doing things upstandingly. There's really nothing to dislike about what they've done. That's everything we should celebrate. And it couldn't have come along at a better time, because, good God, obviously, with what we've had to do with this football program and deal with.
And I can't imagine how much more the buzz would be if football was good, because it brings more Knowles back to look at anything. Mm-hmm. Anything and everything. Soccer, baseball, softball, everything benefits when football is good. So it would be even more. The ticket would be even tougher to get because people would travel up here for those games too. But, yeah, they're carrying the water for us right now, man.
Oh, without question.
And I could tell you that the Lost Acadians would agree with me, and kids who are over there right now over in College Town would agree with me. There was a special bond in those 2 periods of time with the basketball program. Even though we didn't make the tournament my first few years on campus, they gave you a good show. They played entertaining brands of basketball. They were good enough to beat the best teams in the country. They often did at home, at least once a year, to give you a thrill. Something that couldn't be said for the football program. We had 0 rivalry wins at home in my time as a student. So you bonded with that group in a special way in that program. And he's still here. And now he gets to do it the way that he envisioned, and everybody... They changed all the multicolor seats. They made the building look a little bit more presentable. Could it get better? Sure. But is it better than it was? Absolutely night and day. It's just really cool to see this thing get to the place where you can expect a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament next year, just as reasonably as you expected this year and just as reasonably as it happened last year.
Well, and you can survive losing elite-level players, top 15 picks, multiple top 15 picks. That's really the sign that you've built a sustainable product, that you have the kind of depth that we've always envied in the triangle. Carolina and Duke would lose NBA players every year, and you would just make assumptions that they were a preseason top 10 team again because they recruited at a level that we could only dream of. That's what I mean when I say, like, take it in. I mean, we're now not just winning games and having success, and hopefully, obviously, you go on a run here. We didn't get the opportunity to do it last year. But the truth is, I mean, I didn't think in all my wildest dreams that we would ever have a situation in which Florida State produced multiple lottery picks, 3 guys in the same draft, let's say, going to the NBA, that you would lose those points, those rebounds, and all that they represent, let alone the leadership. And you would weather that storm and maybe arguably be as good, if not better, the following season. I keep saying that. I bring it up a lot because it's profound to think about what they lost. And when you do that and you contrast it with how good they are right now, you realize, my God, it's a wave of really good players time in and time again. You're going to lose Scotty Barnes. Who knows who else off this roster leaves? And yet we point to that top 3 class that's coming in and the Houston kid that transferred, and you're like, are they going to be good again next year? The answer is yes, they are going to be good again next year. It's a matter of can they win the ACC again, which would then be 3 years in a row.
That would be the Amansky.
It's something to behold. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Going out with a bit of meanness in the air, huh?
Well, that's just because you got spooky times ahead of you tomorrow, so that's all.
I don't know if they're spooky. I was at Orange Theory Fitness again today. I practically live there these days. It's my second family, Tom. That's what it is. But I had to persevere today because I can't go tomorrow and I can't go Saturday and I can't go well, I don't know. I guess I could, but I don't think it would be very pleasant because my face is going to be on fire.
Exactly.
So,
and it would look it so when you showed up, you'd hear that music.
Yeah, people look at me like, sir, I don't think working out's in your future today. And also, I don't want you next to me, anywhere near me. What's going on with you?
Does the Rona do that?
What is going on, sir? No, but one of the Brian guys, listener to the show, good guy. I see him there frequently. He said, "Hey, man, I heard you on the show the other day talking about it. Good luck with your procedure. I don't want this to be overblown. I mean, I am having a procedure done, but it's not like, I mean, knock on wood, I don't think death is imminent. I mean, they got out in front of this thing. It's why I won't be on the air tomorrow. So tomorrow, don't think that I just decided to skip out early on the weekend. Believe me, I wish I could. It's going to be a beautiful day. But everybody else can enjoy that beautiful day because I'll be house-ridden.
Maybe 2 o'clock tea time in somebody's future tomorrow?
I wish. Oh, for you, yeah. Yeah, not for me. I'm not allowed to see the sun. I gotta get race home. They want me to wear like a giant sombrero, something that would block all rays.
Do you still have the sombrero where you used
from
to pick
1270
bowling teams? Yeah.
I don't think I do. I wonder if Matt Millar has it. I don't know. You know, the last day. That's funny you bring that up.
He needs to drive it to you tonight.
I've got a big hat that was my father-in-law's that he passed away, and I kept that of his because I always liked the way it looked on him, and it reminds me of him. I could, in his honor, wear that for good luck tomorrow. It's a good-looking hat. It's a big one, but it looked good on him. I don't know if it would look good on me, but I'm not really worried about looks tomorrow. I'm trying to get this procedure done and then get on with my life. But I will say that that she told me that my dermatologist that, and I like her. I'm going to tell you, I like my dermatologist. I don't really say, that's a weird thing to say, but I do. She's a straight shooter. She doesn't fool around. And she told me this is going to suck. I mean, she used those words. I thought that was hilarious. I like that about doctors. If they're going to be blunt with you, that's what you need, right?
Because she's done it, right?
Yeah, she's done it. Yeah. She says, "Look, it sucks. It's uncomfortable. We're basically taking the top layer of your skin off." But they're burning into this mark on my face, and I am tired of this thing on my face. I will say I've grown tired of this thing. It used to show itself, and then it would go away. And I thought it was like a reaction to the tannins in wine. Like if I had a glass of wine, you could become flush, and I'd see these little red marks, and I was like, oh, it's just a weird reaction to wine, like an allergic reaction to wine.
Tannins? Is that's the term?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like Biff.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
You've had too much wine, butthead.
Yeah, so I thought, tannins, Tannins.
Huh.
It stems from the grape skins, seeds, and the wood barrels used during aging. They provide texture and mouthfeel to wine, as well as a sense of weight and structure. Tannins create the drying sensation in your mouth when you drink wine.
Huh. That's a new word of the day. Tannins with an I.
Yeah, now, I've said tannins before around you. You just maybe didn't notice. I couldn't have given you that definition off the top of my head. I'd pulled that up, but I know what tannins are. Anyhow, now everybody does. I thought it was a reaction to the tannins in the wine. That, because it would only happen every now and again. Mm-hmm. But it also happened, like, with certain kinds of craft beer. So then I thought, I wonder if there's a shared ingredient in some of this, in like a wine, a red wine that I drink occasionally, or one of these craft beers. It was that infrequent that when I would imbibe, occasionally my cheeks would turn red and I would see these spots. Now it's omnipresent. It never goes away. It's got to go. I've grown angry at my skin. Now I'm like, oh, well, take it all off. I told her when she told me this is going to suck, but you're going to feel better, you're going to look better, and we'll have taken care of this thing more importantly so that you don't have to worry about it. I go, okay, well, if you see anything that looks like it could be a problem, even a year from now, you take it down. You take it out right here. Let's go. Burn me all over the place. If you've got to do my calves, my forearms, my chest, my face, let's go. Burn it down. I'm just going to be sitting there frozen in a vat of ice. I'm recovering.
Yeah, you're in healing tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm in healing tomorrow. So no show tomorrow, which I'm actually kind of angry about because I was excited about this edition of the Libations Friday JCS because, listen, man, roll it out there. Roy, as we said on today's show, made an appearance last night. I can't tell if that is the beginning to the end for this season for North Carolina, and we will help usher them or usher them away from, say, the tournament. Or was it a look ahead? Were they just thinking about Florida State, pumped up about Florida State, and getting, kind of amped for that game, and then, oops, we forgot to show up against Marquette? I kind of feel like it's that.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to get an angry bunch and some referees who are going to have tears in their eyes after the anthem's over because they know this is a big one for North Carolina. We got to be on it today, guys.
Yeah.
Quick whistles. Come on.
We got to be on it today.
Let's do it.
I love the idea.
You ready, Teddy?
I love the idea of ACC officials getting tears in their eyes before a game because they're so excited, eagerly anticipating the fouls they're going to call on Florida State. Oh, where do you see some of the stuff I call today, Teddy? You're gonna get choked up. How imaginative I am. Don't be surprised if you catch me blowing the whistle early with a couple of palmings. I'm pulling it all out today, baby. I'm gonna call palming. That's right. I'm going to get anything that looks remotely close to a travel. You can bet we're calling that.
Look at Jamie Lucky. He's got those angry tears in his eyes.
Yeah, he can't wait.
He's ready.
Just breathe on North Carolina today, FSU. I dare you. You know and we know what has to happen here today. Don't you try to make this a circus. You let us call this game the way it has to be called, if you know what I'm saying. I don't want any lip out of you, Ham. It's almost the mindset you can picture, sadly, of the officials of the ACC desperately pulling North Carolina towards a tournament that they probably can't earn.
Leonard's like, what do you know? Favoritism in North Carolina. Never seen this before.
Yeah, never in my life.
In any phase of my life.
Right. So, I don't know if it's going to matter. We, we'll just steady sit starters. Guys miss games left and right. We don't care. Like, half our lineup's out today, but our backup five and the five after are better than anything you got. So have a good one. Raekwon Gray at this point, you just write him down for a double-double every single game. It's just a matter of how impressive is that double-double going to be.
For the next 30 games.
30
He's
games.
got 30 more here in our uniform.
But just go ahead and write it in. And then, we've joked about it all year long, but when you see Calhoun is having to start, you're like, okay, I like him. This will just expedite his growth.
Yeah, I was hoping to see that. And actually, on defense, it looked like he's starting to free up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I really like the sequence with the steal from a little bit of work from behind, and then he's released out for an easy dunk on the other end. Okay, that might be a little aggressive. I think on Saturday it's going to be called a foul. Certainly will be.
By the way, at the end of last night's game, and I watched it with Trey after we finished the golf, and I was cracking up when that thing became a blank show. The officials wanted to be anywhere but there. In a non-competitive game, Miami looked like a high school. Florida State is like doing whatever they want, goofing around, laughing, throwing the ball off the glass. You could have got a running start for either team in the last 5 minutes and kick somebody in the jewels, and they would not have called a foul. They're like, let's just play on. Let's go. Let's. It was hilarious. Dudes getting slapped in the face left and right. They're like, nothing to see here. Let's hurry it up here. Got to be a man in the lane, everybody. We're trying to go home. This is like – because at one point, Balsa looked uncoordinated down in the post in the last 5 minutes or whatever. I don't know what he was doing. His timing was off or something.
He was off in the first half too.
But then he had a little run. He played well.
He also had a coast to coast, which I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
rev up the engine.
But he got slapped on the arm, bodied, slapped on the top of the head. He pump fake, lost control of the ball, went up without the ball. There's an elbow in the ribs. There's an official standing right there. He's fouled 4 times on one play. They're like, ball. I was like, this is awesome. They just want to go home. And we were fouling too. It was like, okay, I got it. This mercy rule here. We're just trying to go home.
Well, Boss has been on that end of the stick the whole season. He's probably got stitches all over his body. And he's like, no fouls. Yeah. There were no fouls.
No fouls, yeah. Well, but yeah, he's, golly, I like that he's just unrefined enough.
Yes.
Just unrefined enough.
And showing enough potential from the perimeter in a couple of ways. Dribble drive plus taking the shot that, man, there's so much to work on, Balsa.
Got to come back. You are so close to being a top 20 pick.
I mean, I think a team would take you right now, but,
Yeah. If you want to make some real money.
These little flashes, if you make that, like, look at what we've done with Raekwon.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Do you see this?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. He's going to get paid. You can too. Hang out here for one more year. You'll be more of a feature guy next year for us. Make some empty promises if you have to. Whatever you got to do. Good work out of you. Good work, Matthew. You guys be well. What the hell do we have tonight? Anything?
Well, we got a court report tomorrow.
Court report tomorrow, I know, but anything tonight? Nothing?
I just say we got a court report tomorrow.
Court report tomorrow.
So there is new content for folks.
Yeah,
there's a reason to tune right back in here tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow you will have a court report. Tom and I sat down and knocked out a court report, and I'm excited about that court report. By the way, for all the people that, and this is petty on my part, but I'm going to be petty for a second, for all the people that tweeted at me like, well, Cameron says this is going to be a joke of a game. We don't even need to watch it. Huh? Well, there you go. There you go. Yes, 100% correct again. You could have. I said in my tweet last night when I choo-chooed, I should have done that morning. That would have been funny. I should have done it at 8 in the morning. Choo-choo. Before we traveled down there. That was never going to be a game. And at no point was that a game.
No. 25-8, you're like, now you're just checking your watch.
Yeah.
You're like, all right.
Nobody get hurt. Nobody get hurt.
Well, when Malik went down.
Yeah. You're just like, go, hold your breath. Please be okay. We need it. Cross our fingers. Be well, everybody. You can hear the court report tomorrow. I'll be back with you on Monday. Peace.